What's up, everybody? Welcome back or to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a little maintenance on my 2015 Ford F350, and what we're going to be doing today is changing the oil and the fuel filters. Now, I typically change my fuel and oil filters around every 6 months. Now, depending on your particular driving style and how hard you are on your truck and how much towing you do and so forth, the intervals in between your oil and fuel filter changes might be different from mine. So enough talk, let's jump in and let's get this done. Okay, so what we're going to be using today is the Docks Diesel Premium Fuel Filter and Docks Diesel Premium Oil Filter. And because I have an upper fuel filter conversion kit from Sinister Diesel on my truck, I also bought a separate Baldwin filter that'll screw onto that instead of using the one that comes in this kit, which I'll go over all of that shortly. And as far as the oil goes, I tend to use the Shell Rotella T6 synthetic diesel truck oil, which is the 5W40. Now again, depending on your location and the environment you typically drive in, you might go with a 10W. It just depends on which weight you want to go with on your truck. But I've been using the 5W40 on pretty much all of my diesel trucks over the years, and I've never had an issue with it. So let's go ahead and start with the oil change first. Again, this is on a 2015 Ford F350 Powerstroke. So let's hop in and let's get it done. So we're under the truck, and I have a little wood block here with my oil drain pan here. Right up here is where you're going to have your oil drain plug. You're just going to go ahead, set your pan right up underneath of it. You're going to loosen the plug. Once you break it loose with a wrench, what I like to do is put a little pressure on the bolt while loosening it. That way, once it's fully loose, I can keep a hold of it and pull the plug out and hold it in my hand. That way the oil's draining down into the pan, and I don't drop the plug into the pan of oil and have to fish it out later. So let's go ahead and start doing that now. Okay, so now that I got that broken loose, what I'll then do is kind of hold the pan up a little higher while loosening the bolt. So again, I'm just going to go ahead, put a little pressure on the bolt and slowly loosen it while putting pressure on it. And then once it gets loose enough, I'll hold my pan up a little closer, and then we're just going to pull the plug. And here we go. Okay. So as you see there, it's pouring into my pan, coming out pretty good, but you are going to want to keep a close eye on where the pan is, because when it's fully blasting out, this stream is going to be coming out a little further. As it starts to finish draining, this stream right here is going to be much further up there. So you're going to want to make sure you keep an eye on that and then shift your oil pan back to catch the oil as it keeps getting closer to the front. So we're just going to let that go ahead and drain for a little while longer, and then we'll be back to start working on the oil filter. Now, what's nice about changing the oil on a Ford Super Duty truck is that they actually put the oil filter in the back right here. It's right and easy access to get to. It's easy to take off and easy to put on. Compared to, say, a Ram 2500 or Ram 3500, which I've had before, the oil filter is tucked up in the engine bay, and it's really hard to get them in and out because you have to go through the wheel well, and it's just not as easy to get access to the oil filter on the Rams. But the Super Duty trucks, super simple and easy. It's right here. So let's let this finish draining and we'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and got my drain plug put back in. You don't want to over crank it down or you'll end up stripping it out. So just hand tighten it nice and tight and then get yourself a little paper towel, wipe off any residual oil, and you'll be good with that. Then we just got to go ahead and start loosening our oil filter over here. Start loosening this up. Again, once you break it loose, I like to loosen it with my hand. Yep, here comes the oil. Okay, so now that we got that oil filter taken out, we're just going to let that residual oil drain out into the pan below, and then we'll go ahead and get the new filter put back on here in a minute. So let's let that drain a little bit longer, and then we'll be right back. So now that that's pretty much done draining, the next thing we're going to do, that's what the coat is right there that I'm using, and take the plastic off the bottom. Again, it just pops off just like that. Then what you can do is just kind of reach up here, grab some of this oil on your finger, and we're just going to rub it on that seal just like that. just put some oil on that new rubber gasket right there. That way when you tighten it down, it'll make a good solid seal. So that's all you got to do right there. And don't worry, I got oil on my hands. That's why it's smearing all over. Once you get it on there hand tight, make sure you have some paper towels with you and wipe it off. Then we're going to tighten it a little bit more. You don't want these filters really cranked on there. You want them only on hand tight. You don't need to use any tools to crank them down tighter. So again, once you get it on there, just get it on there as good as you can with your hands, just like that. And then that's it. It creates a good seal. It'll stay on there nice and tight, but just make sure you hand tighten that filter. Don't use any tools and you'll be good to go. Okay, so we're getting ready to pour in the new oil. Again, over here in my pan is the old oil, but once I go ahead and empty all 3 gallons of the new Rotella T6 into the engine, what I'll do to dispose of the old oil is I'll go ahead and pour that oil into the empty containers here, and then I take them to my buddy's garage and then he disposes them for me. So if we come up here, take a closer look, this is where we're going to go ahead and fill our new oil at. And as you can see here, it says that you can use a 10W30, or for severe duty, you can use a 5W40. So again, it's really up to you on how you use your truck, but I tend to always stick with the 5W40. It just tends to work really well for me here in Western Pennsylvania because we do get some cold springs, we do get cold falls, and we get really cold winters. So I tend to stick with the 5W40. So let's go ahead. Take that off, put our funnel in, let's start pouring the new oil in. Okay, so that's it. So we're all done changing the oil. Everything's all changed and good to go. If we look over here, this is the old mess here, but that's pretty much all it takes to change your oil. Next, we're gonna work on changing the fuel filters. So let me clean up this mess and we'll be right back. So next, we're gonna work on the fuel filters. Again, changing the fuel filters on the F350 is very simple and easy. Now, yes, my filter up here looks a little bit different, but the process of changing the filter is really no different than the factory one. So let me show you what I mean. So the first thing you want to do is tuck some paper towel under these fuel filter hoses right here, because once we take these fuel lines off the filter head here, you might drip a little residual fuel. So what you need to do is pinch these little clips here at the top, just like that, and then pull the clip out the bottom just like that. So that's all you have to do. Then you're going to wiggle that off, and you see a little bit of fuel pours out, which is why we put the paper towel there to catch it. On this one here, you're gonna pinch the little gray clip in the middle. You're gonna pinch that on both sides, and that pops off. And then a little fuel might pour out there as well. Now that we have the fuel lines off like that, you're just gonna take your factory filter, which looks very similar to this. You're gonna tilt it a little bit and slide it right up, just like that. Now, I'm gonna set that aside right there for just a quick second. If I open up the Doc's Diesel fuel filter box, you're going to see a filter that looks just like this, which is going to go under the truck in the back. We'll do that here in a minute. And then you're going to see a filter that looks just like this, which is what your factory filter looks like. It has some caps on it. So all you're going to do is pull yours out. You're going to twist yours, pull it out. Then when you take the new one, take the covers off the nozzles. You're going to stick it down there, twist it in place, line it up with your hoses. You're going to clip your hoses back on, make sure your clips are clipped in place, and then you're good to go. Now, for some of you that might be wondering why I switched out from this fuel filter to an aftermarket fuel filter conversion kit, it's because I don't like these plastic nozzles right here. Now again, you're probably fine using these, but I have seen some stories where a lot of these Super Duty trucks with these factory plastic fuel filter housings like this, these nozzles here have broke. And if that happens, you're gonna spray diesel fuel all over the engine bay, which can ignite and cause a fire. So I stopped using the factory ones a little while ago, but if you're gonna be using them, no big deal. But what I do is I buy a separate fuel filter for this conversion kit, and I just put these away in storage in case I ever need to use them. I have them as a backup. So we'll set that aside. Now, to change my fuel filter, we're just gonna twist that out. Okay. And then we're gonna set that fuel filter aside. Get that out of the box. We're gonna get a little bit of fuel, rub it on that rubber ring just like we did with the oil. Okay. We're gonna slide that back up under there, twist it on. I'm gonna go ahead and hand tighten that, but not too tight. Okay, and we're done. Then we're gonna take our filter housing, put it back in. If you happen to have a factory filter, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna slide it in, line it up, and then reconnect your hoses. So this one, stick it down in there. Okay, so once you get your filter back into its position, you're just going to reconnect your hoses. So you're gonna take your right hose here, slide it on until it clicks, and tug on that hose to make sure it's completely connected. Okay, if it pops off, it's not completely connected. Then the same thing with the left hose. Slide that on, make sure your blue clip is pulled out all the way, slide it on all the way, push your blue clip up, tug on it and it doesn't come off, you're all done. Take your paper towels out of there, wipe things off, and you're all good to go for the top fuel filter. So now we're gonna go move to the back and change the back underneath fuel filter, and then we'll be done with our project. Let me clean this up and we'll be right back. Okay, so now that we're about the middle of the truck, you'll see your rear fuel filter housing. So what you wanna do first is unplug it. There's a little pinch clip here. Pinch that clip in, tug, pull that clip out of the way and just kind of tuck it out of the way. Then what you need to do is get some type of bucket or jug or something where you can collect some of the fuel that's kept in this housing where the filter is. Now, if you want, you can collect the fuel in like a clear container and then pour it back in your gas tank later. But for me, I just drain it and dispose of it because I don't want to take a chance of putting any dirty debris from the fuel filter back in the fuel tank. So what we're gonna do is get a bucket, just like that, and then take this yellow petcock here. We're gonna turn it, open it up, and it'll drain out this nozzle right there. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm still draining some diesel fuel. If you look in the bucket, there's a good bit in there. I'd say at least a gallon worth of diesel fuel. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to loosen this water separator housing and see if I can get this off. So let me keep letting that drain and we'll be right back. As you're draining your fuel a little bit, go ahead and use a socket up under here, which I believe I was using a 1 1/4 inch socket. It fits right into this groove right here. So while it was draining, I loosened the filter enough to let a little bit of the atmospheric pressure and air into there, and it drained a little bit faster and I didn't waste as much fuel. If you just sit here all day with this petcock open draining fuel, you'll probably end up draining most of your fuel system. But if you let that drain for maybe about a half a gallon, then go ahead and start loosening this up, and then you'll be able to get through the draining process a lot faster. Okay, so now that we got all of that fuel drained, we went ahead and used our socket to take the water separator housing off. It looks just like that. Go ahead and inspect the inside, make sure, you know, there's no debris or gunk or anything in there. Then reach up under here and take that rubber O-ring out of there. It's right up here, that little green O-ring. We're gonna rip that out because it comes with a new one. So let me go ahead and start doing that. It's hard to do this with the camera, and then we'll go ahead and put our new filter on. So if you look inside the box here of our Doc's diesel fuel filter, it comes with a brand new fuel filter like that. And if you compare it to the old one, that's pretty bad. And then it also comes with a new O-ring like that. So let me work on taking that O-ring out of there. We're gonna put the new O-ring on. We're gonna put our new filter in there and put our housing back on and tighten it back up. So I'll be right back in a minute. Okay, so we went ahead and we got everything put back together. Now keep in mind, your fuel filter is gonna be installed with the large mouth opening here facing up. So once you stick that fuel filter back in and push it up in there, it's gonna start to activate the fuel to start draining back out again. Take the bottom smaller piece of the filter put it down in the water separator housing, and then stick the whole thing up as a whole up in there and start tightening it down. Just make sure that you don't over tighten it and locate your electrical harness here off center. So just tighten it nice and tight, and when it really starts to get tight, adjust it so that your harness is right down below where it was before, but make sure your petcock is tight when you're putting everything back in. So now that we got everything installed, we're gonna take our harness here and reconnect it at the bottom, just like this. Get that on there, nice and tight. And now we're all done changing the rear fuel filter on my 2015 Ford F350. So now let me go ahead and clean all this up, and then we'll start priming the system. So I'll be right back. Okay, so we're all done. So we got our oil changed and we got both fuel filters changed on my 2015 Ford F350. Now let's go back in and try to prime some of the fuel through the system. So to do that, you're just going to basically turn on the key to on without starting the truck, and then turn it back off. Do that probably 3 to 5 times, just to make sure that the fuel starts getting pumped through the system. Because if you try to start it on the first try, it might not start because there's not enough fuel pumped through the filters that we just changed. So this is the 3rd time. I'm going to shut it off. I can hear the fuel starting to pump through the system now. It's filling up the filters. Let's try it one more time and we should be good. Okay, we're good. We're started. Let's see if it stays started. Seems to be running pretty good so far. Okay, we're good. Let's go out and check, make sure there's nothing leaking. That looks pretty good. I don't see any oil dripping. Let's go under here and check the fuel filter. Nothing dripping, everything looks pretty good. Okay. Let's check through some of these systems. Oil life. All right, let's get hold reset. Holding the reset oil life set to new. Okay, so we're good to go with that. Okay, so we're all done. We went ahead and changed the oil and the oil filter and both fuel filters on my 2015 Ford F350. Changing the oil on these trucks is super simple and easy, and changing the fuel filters is actually pretty simple and easy as well. But a quick tip, when you're changing the rear fuel filter on the back, when you open up that petcock to start draining your fuel, if it's continuing to drain fuel after about a half a gallon, go ahead and take your socket and loosen up that fuel separator housing. Loosen that up a little bit to where it allows some atmospheric air and pressure in there, and that'll actually help drain that a little quicker, because what's happening is when the filter is engaged all the way up at the top, it must send a signal or some type of trigger to allow fuel to drain down into that water separator. But if you loosen it a little bit, it disconnects that fuel filter from whatever that trigger is, and then you'll only drain the fuel from the housing itself. If you just let that petcock stay draining without loosening your filter, you're probably going to end up draining your whole fuel tank. So don't do that. But at the end of the day, we're all done, we're all reset, we're all good for probably about another 6 months. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope this video helps some of you out. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button to like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, because it definitely helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.